I think welcome everyone. Thanks for joining this session. Today, Lizelle is going to take us through the application tools for SWOT analysis, specifically focused on getting feedback from our students. So, Lizelle, thanks for presenting. Over to you.
Thank you so much. I was just saying to Janus before we all were together that when we are preparing presentations or talks, you think you know, and then you start reading up and you find information, and then all of a sudden you get so sidetracked. So I do apologize if I sound all over the place, but there's so many wonderful things that you can see and find and try out. So I hope you will be able to enjoy today's session. Which is application tools for doing SWOT analysis, and specifically in relation to course review or course evaluations. I'm going to start off by asking a few questions, and please unmute yourself and talk to me. Share your ideas. You can even type in the chat. I've joined on another computer, so I will be able to follow the chat there. But the questions that I want to ask is the following. How do you currently evaluate your courses? What value does the evaluation process add to the decisions you make regarding the course? Why do you do a course evaluation? And what is your reason for, so basically, what is the reason for doing a course evaluation? And can you do it differently? So I'm going to, anybody that wants to share their thoughts around this? Or should I rather have started with, are we doing course evaluations, or are we only focusing on teaching evaluations?
Hi, Lizelle, it's Mervyn Jacobson.
Yes.
And I see a colleague of mine has joined, and Dr. Jenny Hull and I are actually clinicians who are involved in teaching the NMFC group.
Yes.
So we're not directly involved in course evaluation, but for us, this is a learning process. So we want to find out what the mechanics are and how it is done. From my perspective, just as a simple clinician trying to convey clinical information, for me, course evaluation is absolutely critical because from two perspectives, one from our own, to establish that we are meeting expected guidelines, and two, from the recipient, in other words, the student, to find out how they are receiving the information. Is it comprehensive information? Is it well presented? Is it appropriate? And is it useful? So I'm just talking purely from a clinical point of view. I don't know if that adds anything to your perspective. Thank you.
Mervyn, I think you are hitting the nail on the head, because it's so crucial for us to actually think about that the content that I am teaching, is that aligned? Is it doing what it's supposed to be doing? Is the student accepting it the way that I intended it to do? And yet we are so focused on test marks, because if the students do well, then great, my course is doing its trick. Or we are focusing on how am I performing as a teacher, but we never really, well, that's an assumption, so please don't shoot the messenger. It's my assumption, because I am as guilty as many. I think that we are so focused on how did I perform that we never go back to how did the course, the material, the actual engagement, is that adding value to the student experience? Anybody else that want to add or share their thinking? How do you evaluate? If you do evaluate courses, how do you do it? And we're a very small group this afternoon, so it seems like I'm picking on people. So Yanis and Ashad, I know that you are very involved in quality assurance and setting up. So how do you evaluate your courses?
So, Lizelle, the one approach that we do is the SWOT focus groups, where we ask students to volunteer to be part of it, and we first of all explain to them that the information will be used for enhancing and improving the course, and then we select based on the cohort. We kind of see how they perform in the course, and we make sure that we sort of have a performance and engagement. So students that didn't really engage, you definitely want to hear their voices. Students that engaged a lot, you also want to hear their voices. So we kind of look at those metrics to then make up our sample size, and we get our 10 students or so in a room, and we go through a whole range of questions asking them. Now, the one thing that, just on your second question, I'm going to jump there, is that the one thing that we have noticed about using the SWOT focus group approach is that I get a lot more rich information about the student experience. So with the bachelors of health science and health systems students, one of the things that came really out with the new health systems track is that there's identity issues. Students are scared and are unsure about what this degree is going to give them in the end, and they are not sure what the job opportunities are and so forth. And one of the so obviously that was a weakness or a threat. The threat being that students might not select health system science because they are unsure. So one of the things that we ask them in terms of opportunity is, what do you think we should do in terms of addressing this? And the students mentioned that we should host networking events, and that we should create make them more aware of jobs. So we build in a session around job opportunities where they need to go research jobs. We are busy thinking through a social media campaign about launching, or establishing a better student identity and so forth. So yeah, in a nutshell, it's really valuable to do it in that way for me.
Okay, so you've described that approach that you are following, and we will be going through that a little bit later. But these are the questions that we need to ask us. So it's linked to quality assurance when you are doing course evaluation. So when you are reviewing or renewing courses or updating courses, there has to be a reason. And on what are you basing your decisions for changing the curricula? Or the course will come from the method or the type of evaluation that you've done. So it's very important not to just evaluate how did I teach, but also and not just look at how the students are performing, but look at is there course alignment? Am I assessing what I taught, and is it linked to the objectives? So there's a whole lot of reasons why I'm doing a course evaluation. Some people are only deciding that they just want to get feedback from moderators or external examiners or external reviewers and make the changes of, are they meeting the standards or requirements for their course based on that. So the question that I'm asking is, regardless if you are doing a course evaluation or if you are not doing a course evaluation, there's room for improvement and we can do it differently. And even if we are doing it in a specific way and we think, oh yes, it works, is there a way for us to reach more people or include more voices when we are doing this? So that's something to think about. So my next slide speaks to then, what do you consider when you're planning a course evaluation? And I'm only focusing on 3 things: the what, the how, and the where. So you have to first think about what type of evaluation do I want? And I will elaborate a little bit on that. How am I going to do this? So what tools do I need to be able to do this evaluation? And then thirdly, what is the platform? And the platform can either be online or it can be in person. It can be remotely, it can be asynchronous, it can be synchronous. So where am I doing? And the timing will fit into the where. When do I do it and where do I do it? Are we all happy? Just a thumbs up, thumbs down. Moving on. Okay. So the type of evaluation, there's 3, in my thinking, there's 3 types that we can do. You can either do it through an analysis, so some sort of analysis, and Jannes have described the SWOT analysis. Or you can do, so having focus group, having interviews, speaking to people and analyze the data as to what does it tell me. Or you can work on feedback. So that can be from student feedback. It can be feedback from peer teachers. It can be feedback from moderators. It can be feedback from external reviewers or external people or support staff. So that focuses on feedback. And then you've also got reflection. And Mervyn, you spoke earlier about the self-reflection as to what am I doing, why am I doing it, and does it meet the expectations of the student? So that speaks to the reflection. And I'm sure you might think of other types. I'm just going to highlight the 3 major ones that we normally fall into. So when you are thinking about the tools that we use, so for the analysis, you can either do a SWOT analysis or we can do, I don't know how many of you are familiar with the 6 thinking hats. The next slide will speak to that. For the feedback, you can actually do a survey. And I'm sure that most of the courses have got a survey, a student survey at the end that might ask them what was valuable, what was not valuable. But we have to consider the type of questions that we ask and what are we doing with that information? Because when we are getting student feedback, it's sometimes they get the sense that they are completing surveys after survey after survey, and nothing gets done with the questions. So in the end, the response rate is not very good. So how valid is your judgment then when you are speaking to or when you are evaluating survey data? How many of you experienced that even if you do your teacher evaluation, that you give a whole list of 300 names to people and then you get 6 responses? Thumbs up.
That's usually consumer apathy, and it doesn't only apply to SWOT surveys. And if you go and dish out a study to a whole group of people, there are only those people who actually think and feel who would spend the time to answer.
That is so true. So we have to really think about what do I want to achieve with my course evaluation? Is it just for the sake of saying to tick a box to say that I've done it? Or are you going to really do something with the information? And you will get a higher response rate or participation if the objective is clear as to what you want to achieve with this course review or evaluation. And then reflections you can actually put into a portfolio, and you can include it in all sorts of ways of how are you implementing or your reflections and your thinking processes into your course. So let's talk about the analysis, and Jannes was very kindly, there's a hand, please just unmute.
It's Dr. Hull. Just a
Yes.
question with that one person who always answers, as Dr. Jacobson has suggested. Doesn't that bring bias into it? That we don't really have the views of everyone? I don't know what the answer is, but it worries me that you have the bias of people who are analyzing and those that are doing the course and don't think about it. We're not going to get the input at all. Just a thought. Okay.
You are asking very good questions, and it might be something for us to reflect on when you are making the decisions of if I want to get more participation, or if I want to get valuable inputs or insights, what is the best way for me to involve all stakeholders or all voices within the course to actually give their inputs. So, Janis, one of the things is to have focus groups, and we all know that focus groups are from a research perspective, is this, small groups. It's about 15 people max. So again, if you've got a class of 300, then you'll have to have so many focus groups. But if you use an online environment, and that's one of the tools that we will be exploring a bit later, you might get the voices of more people, and especially if it's not, they can add it in their own time and you keep it open for a while, you can ask them to put, specific questions around what was helpful in the course. What is the strengths? What was harmful? So what is weaknesses? What are the opportunities? What have you gained? What do you see you can take this forward to? And then threats. How does, what was threatening or challenging within in the course? So if you use that kind of questioning around and have it on a platform, whiteboard, or then people can add their thinking and their thoughts as they are going along. It's an alternative way to actually get people to contribute. And then the other way of doing it is the 6 thinking hacks, is to actually say to people, okay, so if you are having a white hat on, you are neutral and objective. So you can only deal with facts. You cannot give any emotion in this, in your points. And you have to change the hats around so that everybody can have a chance to wear a different hat. But when you've got that hat on, you can only be neutral and objective, the white hat. The red hat is opinions, so emotions, seeing red. So take time to listen to emotions and opinions and try to highlight what people are thinking, what they are hearing, what they are saying, and you are highlighting those emotions. If you're wearing the yellow hat, you are sunny and positive and you cannot see any negatives. You have to be hopeful and be optimistic and just look on the bright side. The black hat is obviously the opposite, and then you are on the downside and you are gloomy and negative. So you're playing devil's advocate. You are just saying, sorry, can't happen. There's too many variables. You just break everything down. The green hat is like grass and it's fertile and growing. So you are looking at the possibilities, being creative and come up with new ideas. And then the blue hat is the color of the sky, and you are taking a wider perspective, or a helicopter view, or you're taking a balcony view. You put yourself above and you look down to see what is happening. Now, my question to you here is, do you think these 2 types of analysis can work for a course review? Yes, Mervyn.
Thanks. I'm the devil's advocate, and I often wear the black hat because it's a valuable hat in terms of being critical.
Yes.
And one of the issues for me that's very important is the attitude of the students who are being interviewed, who are responding to the questionnaire. And there are a couple of factors that influence that attitude. The first is that many of them don't even bother because their primary focus is to pass an exam. I don't even think they appreciate how important their development of skills and their clinical acumen and use of the information that we're providing is important. They just have to collect data and answer questions. So that's a very, in my mind, a very critical factor in terms of how they approach this kind of analysis. The second is, what am I going to get out of it, or what is going to make it better for me? I'm not sure that they see it as an holistic thing, which is what we're trying to achieve, that we want to make it better not only for the individual, but for that group and subsequent groups, and for us as the teaching fraternity. So attitude for me becomes a very critical issue in terms of how do we A, design these analyses, and B, how do we evaluate the attitude of the people who are responding to these analyses. Thank you.
I like you wearing the black hat and raising some of the issues, and that's very important. We need people like that, but we don't need all people to wear the black hat. So I
must say, Lizelle, I don't wear the black hat all the time, but there are times where it's absolutely critical.
No, that's great. Dr. Hull?
Yeah, can I just come in there? I'm not talking about the black hat, but if we look at opinions of people, it depends on the experience of those people. I know we're all going for the facts all the time, but the people have got opinions based on experience, and I think their feelings should be taken into consideration, not necessarily believed, but at least listened to.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. So for me, there's two places where you can use these two platforms. The SWOT, you can actually get people to complete to from their point of view as to what is the analysis. But I think the 6 thinking hats has to be and this is now me trying to add value to how we can use these processes. There's many others that might be more appropriate and more useful. But if we want to implement change and really get the students involved, we can use each one of these hats at the end of a session and say, today we are only going to wear, all of us are going to wear the white hat. We don't want to hear any other than just facts. We don't want to have emotions. We don't want the downsides. And then the next time we say, okay, today we are wearing the red hat to get the overall sense of what the course is doing. And if you are combining things in an online space where people can add their thinking as they are when they have time to have reflected upon it, then you've got the information at hand to actually plan ahead and have the justification for why you've made the changes. I don't know if that makes sense and gives a different perspective. But we have to encourage the students to not just to actually move between the various hats and put the hat on, because it will force them to think differently about what they do, how they do, and where they do. And maybe slowly but surely we can change the attitudes of, because it might be fun for them to think differently around things. But these are 2 types of analysis that we can do. So the next thing was, where do we do it, or what is the tool that you use? Now, I've came across this block that the link that I shared at the bottom, and you can copy and save it. It's actually giving you, it says 25 tools, but it was started in 2014 and it was updated in 2020. And it's now 35 apps for specific online brainstorming and decision making in meetings. So there's various apps that we can use, and the process that they followed for doing this is what we call a nominal group. I mean, we all are familiar with how a nominal group in research work. It's the silent generation of thoughts. So everybody was putting their apps up and what their ideas were, and then they voted, and then at the end they had a discussion, a consensus group, and then they decided ranking the apps that was the most useful. And they were evaluating the applications on these 6 criteria. And this is maybe a good way for us to also think before we embed any resource or tool or application just because it's fun. For us things to consider in our teaching. Why am I using this tool? Why am I using the app? Just because I want to show that I'm up with the times doesn't mean that it's fit for purpose or that it meets the criteria. So when you are looking at online tools to use for whatever reason, think about how easy it is to use, and it mustn't require 120 steps for you to implement. So for us in this environment, especially online, we are not all comfortable in teaching online. I am still getting used to facilitating online. This is not my best. I'm not my best. This is not my strong suit. But if I'm going to add any technology to my presentations or to my lecture or to my class or to the activity, I don't want to set the students up for failure, that I take 30 minutes of the time for them to figure out what they're supposed to be doing and getting onto the app. So it has to be easy, and it's like with one click of a button, they are in. So that they are not embarrassed and they're not frustrated of not getting into the app. Does that make sense? Okay. Then easy to invite people. So you all know that if you are sending a link or you create a meeting, or even if you share documents, if you don't have the access correct, and some people can only view and others can, and you didn't check the access that they allowed to be able to edit or they allowed to review, then people are complaining, and the students will very quick complain to you and say, oh, but I can't use this. I can't get access. I can't edit. And that adds to the frustration, and in the end, it defeats the purpose. So rather than stick to what we know.
Discussion of teaching.
Yes. Rather to focus on that than to struggle with the application. Dr. Hull, do you want to? Sorry, I miss half of it. I don't know if my computer.
Apologize. That was my fault. I didn't realize my mic wasn't muted. Apologize. Okay.
No, that's not a problem. The third criteria that they were looking at is engaging. And I think we are all struggling with this, especially when we teach online or when we're having online meetings. And I think I'm guilty for one. If the meeting, especially if I'm not a key member, the computer can be on and the meeting is on, but I'm busy with something else on the other side, and then just hope nobody calls my name to say anything. So I'm not engaged. I'm busy with other stuff. So it's very convenient for me, but I'm not contributing anything. So if you're using a tool, you have to make sure that it gives equal opportunity for everybody to engage. Similarly to what you would have engagement in a face-to-face classroom. Now, I must admit, even in a face-to-face classroom, there are people that are not present, but they are a bum in a seat. So you will get that, but you must create equal opportunity for people to have the same experience and be engaged and try and want to contribute with and sharing the energy when it comes to the engagement. The next one, a way to export the results. Nobody of us want to duplicate things. So if you are going to use the application, you don't want to go in, copy, and then go back to another document and paste. You need to be able to export the results. So that's why the learning management system works so nicely, because you can export the results into SIMS. You don't have to copy and paste or recreate. Dr. Hall, yes, please.
I suddenly came up with something with point number 3.
Yes.
I find it very, very difficult when you're sitting in front of a group of students, you can see the one who's disappeared off. And I used to turn around and ask them a question specifically. And it wakes them up and it makes them pay attention. And I find online, you're not sure if they're with us or they're not with us. It's very difficult to be able to pick someone out and see if they're actually listening. Just a comment with that engaging. It's very difficult online.
It is. So and just to think about it, when you are creating a learning experience or a learning activity, you have to then be very clever, specifically in the online space, to force them to be engaged. So and there's many ways. We're not going to go into that, but it makes it difficult, especially if you do a presentation and nobody responds. So I thank Mervyn and Dr. Hull for contributing, and that I don't talk to myself. I really appreciate that. Then number 5 is scale to fit the working meeting. So you can't have a tool that is only for an individual use. If you want to have group participation, you have to have an application that can accommodate multiple views and many inputs. It's like, for instance, if you use Poll Everywhere. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Poll Everywhere. But if you've got the individual license, if you don't pay for anything for Poll Everywhere, which is a polling system, and you can have a quick question and people can contribute, only 25 people can respond on a given question. So if your class is 55, you either have to say only every second person can respond to the poll, and you can't control that. Or you need to buy a license. So you need to choose an app that is able to accommodate your number of students or the number of engagements that you are requiring them to do. And then the last one, which is the most important, is inclusive design and accessibility. And from personal experience with designing online courses, it's very difficult to meet the standards for accessibility, specifically for disabled students. But it's not only just for disabled students. If you think about your screen time, what happens to you physically? If you have been sitting in front of a computer for 20 hours non-stop, you are going to get physically ill. So you cannot have too many flashy things. You can't have too many images. You can't have too many, because that adds to the experience the student will have. So you need to also make sure that if a student has got a different device, they need to be able to access it on a phone, as well as have the same experience as when they are accessing it on a laptop or on a desktop computer. So there's many design things that you need to consider, but even for your engagement, that people will be able to if they can download a copy and then add the comments later. So those are the things that you need to think about. And our CLTD team is very good in helping with the criteria around accessibility. But these lucid meetings basically use these 6 criteria to evaluate the 35 apps or tools for online meetings and brainstorming. So I ran the list past CLTD, the design team, and they were saying to me that there's something else that you need to consider when you are choosing an app, and that is the the data privacy. So every time you ask the students to log out and sign into another app, they are giving permission for that application to basically use some of your information. So either your usage or I don't know what data they are. I never read the fine print. So if somebody is giving a new app, let me go and try. So I don't even know what I am agreeing to because I don't read the fine print. So there are standards that you need to consider, and I really don't know what to do and how to think. And so I just phoned CLTD, and they have got some criteria or pointers that they look at. And the two that I'm going to show you next is literally ISO standards. It's not selling any data, or using any data. It's safe to use for students, that we are not exposing them to anything. So I want us to, we've got about 20 minutes left. So for the next 10 minutes, I want you to either, and we are so little, but you can click on both. Have a look. I've created a link. So if you just click on is the link going to work? So Jamboard, concept board and Jamboard are both things that are safe to use. So sorry, there's the links. So I want you to click on one and then the other. You can click on both. I've given you access to that. It will take you into another tab. And you can then see rate for yourself, how easy is it to use? Is it something that you will be able to collaborate with or use in future? So I want to see as a group, what is the feasibility and the usability of this platform for us to use? So I'm going to give you about 10 minutes and then we will come back and then we will have get your feedback. Yes, Janus.
Okay, the only thing is we can't click on I think Ashad shared it now. Okay, great. Thanks, Ashad. But is that the link to the boards that?
Yes. So if you click on the concept board and the Google Jamboard, if you click on either of them in the presentation, then you will be able to, it will take you to the next. So okay. It's not taking it to. Okay, let me just put it in the
chat. Yes, please. Thanks.
Okay. So there are the links to the specific boards that I've created so that I can also follow you and see what you are doing. Oh, Ashad is on the Jamboard. Yay! And Janus is on the concept board. Liwe, I see you've joined, and Dr. Hull, you've joined. You can click on the concept board. You can click on any of the insert a section, upload file. You can insert a template icon. embed a video so you can play on anything. You have got access to all of that. I see you guys are having fun in the concept board. So I would like to I'm going to ask you your impressions because most people are using Jamboard, Google Jamboard. That's something that everybody is getting onto. But this concept board is a new platform. I haven't played around with it as much. So, but yeah, I think that's a nice one to see. So, what is your comments? Yes, Johannes.
Not a comment, just a question. In terms of the concept board, is that also free to use for educational staff?
I've signed up. I haven't looked at the terms and conditions, but I've created 3 boards in the meantime. So yeah, and you can have as many as you want, unless you want to pay for a. It's the same as Padlet, I think. Padlet, you can have 5 active Padlets open at a one time if you don't pay a fee. But yeah, this one is because you also sign in with Google.
So just another, and I don't know if there's a privacy issue with that, but one of the other software that we use is Miro, which you get a educational license. And it's, if I look at the comparison between this and that, it looks very, very similar. But Miro allows educators to create this. So if you type in Miro educational license, and you sign up through that, then you can create as many boards as you like. You get a free unlimited license.
So I'm honest, I will have to invest, or go through the terms and conditions. I just saw these through the website that I found. So and CLTD checked that these is ISO standard, so there's no privacy issue. There's no data leakage, so it's POPIA Act compliant. Whereas Miro there is an issue. I don't know if it's the free version or if it is with the paid version.
Okay, cool, thanks.
Any other feedback? Questions?
This is a totally new concept for me, so I would have to spend time working out how to use it and then how to implement it. But it looks as though it's got great potential. I must say I got onto Concept Board and felt much more comfortable than I did with the Jamboard. Concept Board was almost straight away interactive. They sent me a confirmation letter, which I accepted, and they've demonstrated how to use the board. So as a total green bean, for me, Concept Board initially was a preferable one to use. That's just coming from the outside, totally ignorant of this process.
Well, I'm very, very happy for that feedback. Thank you, Mervyn. And yes, and what I like, I mean, I haven't used it. This is the first time that I'm using it. And I like the way the cursors are moving and you can see who's typing where. I don't know if you all could see one another's names moving around. So yeah, I think I like that. So you can actually see when the students are interacting, which students are not interacting. But yeah, we will have to investigate this further if it's something that we want to use for our students.
Can I ask, are you able to download things? Because maybe I'm a bit like Mervyn, but I didn't get an answer to welcome me. And I tried to see if I could put a video or something onto it, a lecture, and I couldn't get it to work. So I don't know what I'm doing wrongly. I better redo it and learn how to use it. Okay.
So if you create one, you can just, when you sign up, so I've given you a link to my board, so you are collaborators on my board. But if you're signing up with conceptboard.com, you will get the welcome letter and the tutorials and the videos, and then you can have a look. But you will be able to, because if you see on the left-hand side under the plus, there's an insert, so you can upload files, insert a section, whatever, and then below you can import from Dropbox, import from Google Drive, so you can import stuff. And according to the review is that you are able to export. Okay. So you can save it as a PDF and or export the information that you don't need to redo or retype anything.
Thank you so much. I'll try and sign up like that. Okay.
If you click on the article link, well, maybe I must. Well, Ashad has put it in earlier. No, let me quickly put that in for you as well, because that's actually a very nice article for you to use or to look at, because they explain the apps. And different things, so you can have a look as to, do I want to have a reflection thing, do I want to have, there's so many, but yeah, the explanations are coming from, you know, the concept board and the jam board. They've got others as well that you can have a look at.
Thank you.
Not a problem. Well, we've got 5 minutes left, so any comments, suggestions, feedback, concerns? Rating my ability to teach online. Hope you had some fun. Even if it's frustrating, then at least you were learning, because out of frustration comes knowledge.
Very well done. Thank you. Dr. Jacobson and I've both got a meeting at 5 o'clock. So, yeah. Okay. Thanks very much.
Not a problem. Thank you for joining. Janus, I don't know if you want to add anything.
No, except for what I did is sort of the combination of what you suggested around first doing the SWOT analysis with the focus group, and then leaving the board open for them afterwards, so that if they felt that they, you know, as they thought about additional components, they could add to the Miro. So I used Miro, to the Miro board, which is very, very similar to this concept mapping software. Yeah, so I mean, that's just, you can also combine the two, I think, is have the focus group and then leave the board open afterwards for additional feedback.
Absolutely, that's a good idea. So if there's no last comments, then I am saying thank you for your time, and you've got the link to the boards. You can carry on playing. So yeah, add and try it out and use it to figure out how things are working. And yeah, thank you for listening to me. Have a good week further.